Yeah, yeah, just like spend a bunch of time talking about Trump's IQ.
Well, I mean, um, I was quite surprised when Peterson said that he he had a real estate empire, got elected president, therefore he's has a high IQ. Like those things do not equate to me. So how because you said the same thing. So how do they equate to you?
Because I don't see any other people who seem dumb doing those jobs. So I
Hmm.
don't see people with 90 IQs of 90 doing those jobs. Everyone I
Right,
know who's at all successful in any kind of real estate is very quick. Um,
right, right. That makes okay. Yeah,
and then same with the reality TV.
yeah. So I was looking for cause, and you're saying correlation.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh no. Yeah. There is no cause for IQ. It's all like proxy. And should we just watch it?
no, no. I'm saying there's no.
Oh,
I was looking for a cause to believe in high IQ. Like, what is high IQ defined by? It's not by success in your career. It's by how quickly you can uh, conceive of abstract ideas, right? So I had seen no cause of high IQ signs from Trump, except I think what you're pointing out is that there is correlation between things that people with high IQ generally do and what Trump has done. Therefore, maybe he has a high IQ.
right. Right. Correlation.
Right.
Well, and also um, the nature of um, the nature of the I hate to use the word deals, but the nature of deals and um, business negotiations and just the multiplicity of things that go into reality TV and large commercial real estate and running a successful campaign at half the price in a new way of a campaign ever being done. They're super complicated and they require like just this skill to fire from the hip and to know when to say the right thing and to how to assess these things. And it's like, okay, well,
I don't
maybe.
think I agree.
Hmm,
Uh, suggest, yeah, I don't think I agree that running a successful campaign requires a high IQ. Like,
no, well, no, it's just they're super complicated. So,
yeah,
but
I have no reason to think that he managed complex things. I mean, I think his election is a huge huge outlier, right? Like, it's people voted for him not because they thought he would do a good job, because they voted for him because they didn't understand the system and they wanted an outlier. Like he got voted in by proxy in my mind, not because of anything he did.
he got what is by proxy?
I don't know. I'm like I don't know. I just assumed it was kind of like by default.
Oh, I thought he got voted in because he was candid. He was flawed but candid. Like I could easily see Trump saying "fuck you" to Hillary Clinton. And like
Yeah,
when they found out that he said "grab her by the pussy," I almost thought he wasn't gonna apologize. Just gonna say like, "Oh, that wasn't supposed to be recorded. I was just talking shit with the guy. Like, what do you want me to say?" Like I
yeah.
honestly
See,
thought that was gonna be his response, which is what I would say. Like that is something that like I
right.
could easily see myself saying like, "Oh my goodness, I can't believe it. These women, they just throw themselves at me. I'm a multi-millionaire. If I wanted to, I could just grab them by the pussy and bring them in my room." It's not like I could.
Yeah,
It's not like I would do that either. I actually am recording
yeah,
right
yeah.
now, so this could end up on YouTube. But okay, but like honestly, like yeah, you could say that, and it's like it's super offensive. And like I could see why people would be angry about that. But at the same time, like it's probably a good description of what Donald Trump like faced during his career as a like commercial real estate magnate. And like it's also the same thing that like boxers or like UFC fighters or like hockey players, basketball players face. Like how much pussy do you think LeBron James gets thrown at him on a day to day basis? Like if you're that famous, like I don't know, I have to imagine it's just that crazy because it's like the opposite of what you see with like, or it's like the same thing as what you see with like Justin Bieber, right? Or like
Mhm. Okay,
the
so the way I'm interpreting what you're saying is basically that you're right. He got voted in not because of anything he did, but because he was candid. And being candid has nothing to do with IQ to me.
oh yeah, no.
Okay, should we see what Peterson says?
Yeah, oh, yeah. So am I able to hit play from within Google?
You have to hit it on the actual tab, not in the Hangout.
Yeah.
What would you say Trump's IQ really is? Does 160 seem reasonable?
No.
This will be quoted in.
No, 160 is really, really high.
Yeah.
I mean, the typical, the smart person that you're likely to meet in your life has an IQ of around 145.
Yeah.
160 is getting pretty damn rare. And Trump's old, and IQ goes down with age, fluid IQ, although crystallized IQ either stays the same or goes up slightly. So he isn't the problem solver or the learner that he was when he was 20. No one is. If you're in good physical shape, that helps a lot. His IQ is clearly well above average. I don't know, and he's done complex things in his life, and a lot of them, and that indicates that there's something to him, you know. And he hasn't been successful just in one domain. He's been successful in multiple complex domains, each of which were quite difficult. It's very difficult to be a reality TV star that's successful, right? It's very difficult to work in the construction business, and especially on large projects. And I know he's had his economic ups and downs, but he stayed in the game for a long time.
Yes, I pretty much made that same argument. Seems like. So we probably should have just watched him.
But obviously, do you really think being a reality TV star means you have a high IQ?
I would say being a reality TV star has a greater than 50% chance of having an IQ greater than 100.
Okay, so
it's more likely that he has a higher IQ than it does that he has a lower IQ.
Okay, I would have said the opposite. Like, I think the reason why you're popular is because people like to laugh at how dumb you are. Like,
oh, I see what you mean. Really? Well, do you think that's why most people watch The Apprentice, though? Like, because Trump's an idiot and they want to see him just buffoon around?
yeah. I mean, or the people who watch it are dumb themselves, and take condolence that a dumb person can fire somebody. Legitimately, I sound like a complete dick, maybe, but who with a high IQ enjoyed The Apprentice?
Good point. Well, actually, no. I mean, I've watched a few episodes. I didn't hate it. I don't think. I mean, I thought it was I thought the "you're fired" thing was really funny. But I mean, that was at least 15. I mean, at least 12 years ago. I don't know. So
yeah. Anyways, I think I can guarantee you didn't like it because you admired how smart Trump was in the real estate market.
Oh no! But at the same time, he doesn't have to put. So you don't have to put on a smart persona. Putting on a dumb persona doesn't mean you're a dumb person, and appealing to dumb people doesn't mean you're a dumb person either.
Right. But assuming that you're smart.
Yeah,
But
assuming
to
that you're
assume
smart because you're being successful, there doesn't like the Kardashians show is super popular is pretty much case in point.
right, but
We
it
all
sounds
think
like
they're really
Peterson's
dumb.
assuming that Trump was smart enough to knowingly manipulate the real estate show to his benefit, where I have no reason to think that Trump was acting smart rather than acting dumb, and
And
it happened
maybe
to be popular.
so maybe whatever network had put Trump on there realized what a dummy he was, but he fit into a specific piece of the puzzle where you needed a dummy piece that would fit, and so Trump worked for that.
Yeah, or even it doesn't have to be a dumb piece. It has to be like just Peterson's suggesting that it's difficult to gain success in the reality TV industry. That kind of assumes that Trump's was organizing all these complex ideas and manipulating them so that he would gain success in the industry, rather than just happening upon it because his natural tendencies were appealing to a general audience, whether they're an IQ of 110 or an IQ of 90. It has no weight to me in that.
And further to your point, even if like let's say that is the case, he may not even know it. Like I don't think he was the executive producer of The Apprentice. Well, maybe he was.
Right.
But was he really producing The Apprentice, or was he essentially an actor on the show, and got to decide from a business sort of side of things who he liked and who he didn't like, and they just fired the worst one every time, or fired the asshole every time, and then the producers decided, okay, this is how much we're going to show Trump in this episode, and this is how much we're going to show Trump in this episode. So it's and they're architecting, the brand of The Apprentice. Trump is just the big wig guy who flaunts his Fair enough. The construction industry side, I think, is actually hard, though. But like you say, maybe he just hires smart people. I still think it's that's what it. If that's all you had to do, why wouldn't the smart people be winning, though? In other words,
wouldn't the smart people be winning?
Yeah, if dumb people can just hire smart people to win, you would think a smart person hiring a bunch of smart people to win would win better.
Well, that's also my point, is that smartness really has very little to do, I think, with monetary or extreme financial gain. If we
I would say IQ is highly correlated with monetary success, especially non.
The statistics are probably there, actually.
Yeah, but I just think of Warren Buffett, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos. Who else is smart? The phone guy from Mexico.
Mm-hmm. Probably right. Mean homeless person IQ 83.
What is that? Homeless?
Homeless person?
Oh,
IQ?
homeless.
Mean IQ is 100. Self-made millionaires 118.
Mean IQ is supposed to be correlated with 100, but also an IQ of 100. So the 100 set point has been increasing in IQ. So in other words, an IQ of 102 10 years ago now is an IQ of 100. So like the scale itself has been increasing
Oh,
to indicate that like
yeah.
all the people who are scored using IQ tests are getting more.
Okay, so I just read that self-made billionaire mean IQ is 133. So I was completely wrong.
Okay.
There's a high
Right.
correlation.
So
it looks like.
but self-made, right? So the question
Right.
is, how much is Trump? How self-made is he?
Right. He had $1 million loan to get him started, he says.
Right. But then how many after that? And I don't.
Yeah. Bankruptcies.
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay, so yeah, I should definitely admit that given success in different domains suggests that if correlations mean anything, we should maybe think that Trump might have a high IQ or higher than average IQ because of correlations, which is a reasonable assumption, right?
Yeah. Our our expected. What's the statistics term? Your expected value, above 100 at least. Okay, so, but 145 is pretty fucking high too. Should we watch the rest of that video?
145 is, yeah, I think that's pretty insane. I don't know if I've ever met anybody. Maybe Tristan Seavers, 145.
Yeah, I'd say.
What
Should we watch the rest of this? I don't remember what the rest of he said.
Yeah.
TV star that's successful, right? It's very difficult to work in the construction business, and especially on large projects. And I know he's had his economic ups and downs, but he stayed in the game for a long time. Very stressful. He's very stress resistant. So he's no dummy. I mean, it's nice to always think that your political opponent is just stupid. But
though he may seem like it.
But come on, he says navigating the construction industry is complex. Trump isn't bankrupt, or maybe he is. I don't know. He stayed in the game.
He stayed in the game.
Therefore, he's no dummy. No, like I'm sure there definitely exist people who have made it in the construction business who are dummies, right? Like to
I don't know any.
to say,
but
to say like. I don't know. He just says it way too strongly for me in this interview. And this is maybe like with most of his things. Like he comes off
super confident,
strong without
yeah,
allowing for the nuance like
that's like a really
premises.
good point. Yeah, that's actually a super good point. Like I could say something. That's actually such a good point. I could make an argument about something. Anything you wanted, almost in the form of Jordan Peterson, that would make like somebody kind of believe it, right? Like, look, I've thought about hard candy for a long time, 40 years, and I've spent a long time thinking about hard candy, and I'm telling you this: if you go and read about hard candy, it's painfully obvious how bad for your teeth it is, and nobody says anything about it. Everyone's happy to just be addicted to sugar and not eat hard candy. But I don't know, he comes just like, I've read about this a lot. And trust me, like it's actually in a similar rhetoric in that sense to Trump. Like Trump says, believe me, trust me, it's gonna be fine. Yeah. But I mean, maybe that's like the way you think, kind of too. Like, oh no, I've thought about this a lot. Yeah. This is what I think. Like maybe, well, Peterson is obviously just giving his opinion on Trump based on what he sees, right? It's not like he's like prescribing an IQ from the fact that he's a doctor. He's just saying, how smart do you think Trump is? Well, I think he's like high intelligence because like to do all these things that he's done, like probably has a high IQ.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I'm probably taking him more seriously than he intends to be taken.
Yeah.
But he could easily avoid the criticism from people like me if he said it slightly differently. Like he says, therefore Trump is no dummy. that pisses me off a lot.
Yeah.
All he has to say is, therefore, there's reason to think that maybe Trump does have a higher than average IQ.
Yeah, like you could actually just say all the, like, exactly what he said, but you preface it with one sentence saying, like, well, it's like super hard to tell IQ just by proxy, like by just seeing what someone does, because you don't know what their support network's like, you don't know, like, all these.
Right.
That said,
right.
Everything he said in that interview, and
right, and like with
you'd just be like, oh,
quote,
well, yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. All he would have to say in his tweet. So he put a picture of the quote, and in his tweet he could have said, to those people, or some people use it this way, or something, so that it wasn't directed. Everybody who uses the word Islamophobia as a complete coward, a fascist. Like, holy crap! I know someone who's irrationally scared of a religion. What are you talking about?
Yeah, and everyone who uses the word coward or everyone who uses the word Islamophobia is a coward.
Yeah.
He definitely is caught up, like Peterson himself bounces around. He's at the start he was like super charitable all the time. And
that's a good word, actually.
Yeah. And now he's pretty caught up in a lot of this, like, in a lot of the us versus them kind of stuff.
Charitable is a good way to put it.
Yeah. Like,
he could definitely be more charitable.
Like that interview, but he was, like, when he first came out, like his what's like the most famous? It's probably the first thing. Or maybe Joe.
Are you talking, or am I losing you?
I'm talking. Are you here? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can now.
Okay. I was maybe just fading away and muttering or something. Protest. Okay, so this one. So obviously you can't cast. Can I play this?
Yeah.
Nazi presence at your protest. The presence of Nazis and white supremacists assaulting people at your protest. Do you have any comment on that?
Yeah, I don't like Nazis.
Then why
were they here? Well, how can I answer
Are there views in alignment with yours? At some point,
I think that's a foolish question. Look, if you want to know what my views are,
I've watched all of your videos. Yes.
including
Yes, I have.
Yeah. Then why would you ask such a question?
Because this is my interpretation of your videos.
Apparently,
all of the people who arranged the protest against you watched all of your videos.
Okay, so he could be just exploding at this point, right?
Right.
Okay, and then I think it's just after this he gets into.
Do you want to disavow 150 videos on YouTube?
No, your lectures, which sparked the debate.
Okay. Do you want to disavow the support? Could you let me talk to her for a moment?
Don't call me that, please.
Oh my God.
I have 150 lectures on YouTube. There's 500 hours of my views.
Do you really think that you're worth all of that time?
So look, I will answer your question, okay? I've studied Nazism for a very long time. It's been 4 decades, and I understand it very well. And I can tell you that there's some awful people lurking in the corners.
Okay, obviously I've watched this video recently.
They're ready to come out. And if the radical left keeps pushing the way
That sounds very much like a
they're
threat.
going to come.
That sounds very much like a threat.
threat.
That sounds very much like a threat. Would you like to disavow the physical violence? Trans people were physically assaulted at this rally in your name. Would you like to disavow that violence?
Yes.
So you wish that didn't happen, and you want to, and I'm going to post this online, that you would like people to be more accommodating of trans people and people of color at your events in future.
I would like there to be no violence.
I'm a person of color, and I felt very accommodating here.
Anyway, Like, so yeah, you see like that side of him, and it's like, oh, nice, dude. Like, wow.
Right,
And then
right.
yeah, and then you go to his Twitter, and it's like all like just like it's mockery. It's a lot of mockery.
Yeah, that's true.
Which
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm like always on the fence about mockery, man. Like, I think we should have the right to mock, but I don't think it has much utility. Like, it has a lot of utility in like getting people on your side and getting people riled up and stoked about what you're trying to say.
Yeah, but it doesn't affect your opponents at all.
It doesn't affect anyone who initially disagrees with you. Well, other than actually just widening the chasm between you. So it's like, yeah. And it hardens yourself to having your opinion change. I still think the social justice warriors could be right. Like, maybe they're right. Maybe. I don't know.
It's pretty noble of you, I think.
Well, I think you. Well, I guess I don't know. It's like that should be your default position. Like, assume you're probably wrong because most people probably are about most things.
Right.
And also, you'll kill a lot less people if you assume that anyway.
I tried to watch the Rubin Report once or twice, and it pissed me off a lot. I don't remember what the context was, but it was like, oh gosh, I can't watch this shit.
Oh, really?
That was my reaction. Yeah.
Was it? Which ones did you watch? I still like them.
I don't know. I wish I remembered. So we could do it, but pull up anyone because I'm assuming they're all kind of similar.
Yeah. Fair enough. Ruben, let's just see. Well, why don't I go on here and cast this page, and you tell me if you've seen.
Oh, the left is no longer liberal. Maybe that one.
Watched.
Oh, I think that one pissed me off because he paints anyone who considers them left with the same brush.
Right.
So yeah.
Anyone who considers themselves left. Is that what you mean? Okay.
Yeah.
Regressive left today. I've actually been trying to get away from discussing the regressive left lately and instead talk about the ideas of classical liberalism, which I believe in.
So as I understand the regressive left to be an insult. To you, is that?
Well, what do you mean? Understand it via insult?
The term, like when he says the term regressive left, he's using it as an insult. It's not as if there's anyone who calls themselves a regressive leftist, right?
Okay, yeah, I don't know enough. I've never heard the term besides him saying it.
Okay, it basically means like regressive, as in they're going back in time, they're reverting to the old ways, they're shitty leftists. I don't
know. What I think I remember having also a problem is he didn't distinguish clearly between liberal and libertarian, and I felt like his argument could have been one for libertarianism, and he was addressing it to liberals, which is not the same thing at all, actually.
That's in this video?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
But current events keep dragging me back. I see on social media that people are using the phrase regressive left a bit less lately and replacing it with terms like bigoteer, the control left, or the illiberal left. Whatever name you use for this well-meaning yet painfully misguided set of ideas is largely irrelevant. We needed this phrase to identify this backwards ideology which puts groups before people. And sometimes you need a label to get people to understand an idea. The portion of the left which is no longer progressive, meaning for progress, but regressive, meaning going backwards, has been identified, and now we're clearly bringing people to the side of reason. All of you who talk about this with friends and family, who use the regressive left hashtag on Twitter, and share these videos are part of this political awakening. Yes, it seems like these backwards ideas are getting stronger in some circles, but at the same time, finally, for the first time in a long time, those of us who are liberal and open to new ideas are coming together and being heard. Whether or not you like Trump, his win was a huge rejection of the identity politics of the left. But don't take my word for that. Bernie Sanders said it himself. The only thing which can...
Sorry, what was he trying to say there?
What was he trying to say?
Yeah. But Trump's win was a win for the left? What?
Well, I don't understand I don't know what identity politics is. He says it was a...
Oh, okay, I did. Okay,
Yeah.
let's go back, watch it again, and then I'll explain what
I
identity
feel like
politics
you know
is.
what identity politics is better than I do.
Yeah.
Finally, for the first time in a long time, those of us who are liberal and open to new ideas are coming together and being heard. Whether or not you like Trump, his win was a huge rejection of the identity politics of the left.
Okay.
Don't take my word for that. Bernie Sanders said it himself.
Okay, so identity politics is the same thing as using a person's group identity. In other words, so if you are white, therefore you are you are an abuser, or you're in a power seat over black people, and because you're white, you should have less power, or you should black people should be chosen over you for sort of a reparations perspective or something like that.
Is it particular to white and black issues, or is it like any identities?
No, it's like any. It's more just like fascist in general. So just any kind of identity politics. So and in fact, this specific term is used in context of a grander scheme describing how what Dave Rubin would call the progressive left or illiberal liberals or whatever, how they seem to list or how they seem to create a hierarchy of identities. So for example, if you're a black person, you're part of a group identity that has been marginalized. If you're a gay black person, you're an even smaller subset. So now you're not just the marginalized gay community or the marginalized black community. You're both. So you're even in this next hierarchy of people deserving reparations or people deserving. I think that's the whole concept of identity politics is basically assessing someone's value or someone's idea's value, assessing a person's idea based on that person's identity. So assessing their politics based on their identity.
So that's obviously worth a whole podcast in itself, understanding that issue. But
yeah.
I would, and what I'm about to say is that I wouldn't be so quick to say that this election was a rejection of identity politics. I mean, maybe it is. I'd have to look at it a lot more, but I would start to think that in many ways it's actually an acceptance, right? I mean, how does Trump categorize other groups, right? Reporters,
I think a lot
Muslims,
of the voters,
immigrants.
Yeah, I can only really give anecdotal evidence to support Dave Rubin's position there, but so the one really good example is I have a friend, and he on Facebook all the time. It's just it started out as rejection of Black Lives Matter stuff, but he if you talk to him and give him your points, he'll actually listen and he'll respond, but he's like super conservative. Like he thinks, like he has recently said on Facebook that we should like put all of the Muslims in essentially not concentration, in camps and deport them back to what he called the sandbox. So like he definitely has like very extreme opinions on the thing, but like I don't think he's a racist or a bigot. And in fact, like if anyone else was saying it, I would think he was. But because I know who he is, I interpret what he says outside of that, and then like reply and comment saying, "Hey, you sound like a racist bigot, but I don't think you are. So please like explain a little more, so like I understand what you mean, and then I'll determine if you actually are a racist." So, but he is so often called a racist and a bigot for his opinions and things like that. That I think that's one of the big reasons he hates Hillary Clinton, because Hillary Clinton just it totally uses that whole set of language to describe a lot of the problems. Essentially like affirming these identity politics. So he rejects it. So Trump.
Okay, but saying that if you didn't know him, you would think he was a racist deserves some attention, right? Like,
yeah,
there's obviously something that worth talking about identity politics if he's saying send all Muslims back to the sandbox, even if it's for national security logical reasons.
Yeah. Yeah, well, when I say like it seems like it, I mean he'll say in his comment, like he'll qualify it by saying, no, these cultures don't fit together, so we should get the Muslims out of here because they're immigrants. Like it's like a careful reading of what he says sounds not racist or not bigoted.
Well, saying
but like someone who'd be like super.
Isn't that I mean, not bigot, but what's
anti-globalist? Anti-globalism
I mean,
would be what I would call it.
Yeah, that's definitely one aspect, but it's also an assumption that cultures are that you identify with a culture. Right?
Yeah, it can, but it can also. So I think he would just say that the difference is that, it is, it kind of is. I mean, and that's like honestly my biggest point of disagreement with him, which is like, okay, which Muslims, like the white Muslim who went to a liberal college and met a bunch of Muslim people and then decided that he was Muslim too?
Yeah.
You're going to send him to the sandbox? You're not sending him back to the sandbox.
Right. So Trump's nationalism could be considered identity politics, right?
I don't know. Does Trump say like he wants to get all Muslims out of America though? Like he doesn't. He stopped 7 countries. He didn't stop 40 countries or however many Muslim nations there are. Right? Like we're still taking people from Saudi Arabia, I presume.
Yeah, but only. yeah. So that they would buy $110 billion worth of weapons.
So stupid.
Besides the point.
So dumb. Why are we selling weapons at all? Why are we selling any weapons? How does that help our national defense?
Yeah.
Arm no one, and you are the most powerful person. Arm more people, and you're less powerful.
Especially the country that Trump has said supplied the terrorists for 9/11.
And 9/11, and who he railed on Hillary because the WikiLeaks stuff came out, and the WikiLeaks stuff showed that she knew that the guns she was selling to Saudi Arabia were going to ISIS. So he's railing on her because the guns that she got caught selling to Saudi Arabia, that she got caught because she knew they were going to ISIS. He makes the biggest deal of all time selling them more weapons.
Oh my god.
So good.
Okay, so I think we can move on from a minute 30 because I think we at least warranted that it's not necessarily as clear as Rubin just assumes here and moves on. He says it's a clear rejection of identity politics. And I think
No, not clear.
There's reason to think maybe it's not so clear. But
yeah, like we can see how you think people are annoyed by identity politics, and maybe that was a factor in their voting. But like that, there weren't many single issue anti-identity politic voters. I don't.
Yeah, and
right.
Yeah. So there's definitely something to talk about there, at least.
Okay. So back.
The only thing which can replace the regressive descent of the left is a return to true liberalism. A liberalism which defends free speech and expression, a liberalism that is for liberty and rights of the individual, and most importantly, a liberalism that is one for human liberty. I now believe that this regressive ideology is the biggest threat to freedom and Western civilization that exists today. With the rise of Trump and the constant comparisons they make of him to Hitler, the left now has the perfect boogeyman to use to excuse anything. If your opponent is a vile racist, then you can use violence and any means necessary to stop him. The regressive left has already begun using violence as a tactic, and I fear that that's just getting started. If you're only now getting up to speed on what the regressive left is, allow me to recap quickly. The regressive, control, the liberal left, whatever you want to call it, is a group of people who place identity, usually based on immutable characteristics, in a pecking order of social importance such as race, gender, and religion, where victimhood is the highest virtue to be had.
You want to pause?
Suppression Olympics allows...
So the first half of what he said there, I pretty much agree with. Like, yeah, there isn't a lot of defense from liberals on, defending free speech and liberty and individualism.
Sorry,
I don't see a lot of defense from. I don't see a lot of promotion of free speech or liberty or any of that. If anything, I see censorship and looking for less liberties from the left, from a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I totally get what he's saying there.
Well, okay, so I'm going to point out things just because I remember them. I don't want to forget them. The title is "The Left is No Longer Liberal," and I think that's basically my main issue with this thing, is that he says the left is no longer liberal. Mm-hmm. I definitely consider myself left, but I definitely might agree with a lot of what he's saying in this video, and I might think I'm liberal, but I might still have I hope I might not fit into the category of what he calls regressive left. So if he said the regressive left is not liberal, fine, or the illiberal left is not liberal, fine, no issue.
Well, and another thing to point out is that
the 50% of left voters with the same brush.
Well, okay, right. What he had, and it's like it's pretty obvious that okay, first of all, he considers himself left. Well, he considers himself liberal, but he might think that he's right of average. In other words, there are so many, if you want to call them leftists or regressive leftists or something like that, that what his actual stance is, might be right of center, though left-minded.
Well, this is really interesting because Europe and Canada is much more left than the States. So it would be a comparison to say is the left or even his center in Europe, is that illiberal? Or is the States its own phenomenon where the left is becoming left, which would be center in Europe, becoming something different. Another thing I want to mention before I forget is that maybe our podcast could be could address short videos, like 8 minutes maximum. It looks like maybe 5-minute videos, but make them into 30-minute podcasts, because we have to pause every 15 seconds. Kind of like to show how complex everything really is. I don't know.
And how simple people are trying to make.
Yeah,
like, I'm sure we've already spent over 10 minutes on Ruben, and we're only 2 minutes in.
Right.
Yeah, I dig that. Or like 30-minute videos and take 3 hours to dissect them.
Yeah.
I'm down. I'm down with that. So back to your first point, I didn't totally understand. Well, I don't know anything about European politics. So when you said center, were you saying that?
Okay, well,
yeah.
Obama would be considered center or right in Europe.
Oh, because Europe is so liberal.
Right.
Okay.
Right. But it would be interesting to know whether Ruben would categorize Europe as becoming, or whether it's an exclusively American phenomenon.
The regressive left idea.
Yeah.
I think in some, like, I think he thinks the phenomenon of the regressive left, if you want to call it that, exists in Europe, because he'll bring up European policies from time to time. And call it regressive.
So we're also starting to get to the distinguish between left and libertarian. So he's already saying freedom, 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 which to me is not what left is about. Left, like, at least in America, left is socialist, right is capitalist, right? And I'm talking in terms of economic systems.
In economic systems, though. But was he talking about economic? I thought he was more talking about like speech and like liberty in terms of like promoting human liberties, in the sense that like the liberty of free speech, the liberty of, to pursue what you want to pursue, to think what you want to think.
So in that sense, I wouldn't actually consider left to be liberal.
No, it's fascist.
Yeah,
he would
exactly.
He would call it fascist, which is why he's saying it's not liberal. He's saying it's
right. But I'm saying that this isn't new. I'm saying that left socially is fascist. So to say that it's becoming illiberal isn't anything new.
He's saying the American left isn't liberal. Like, so the American left, the mean, if you want to call that, of the American left, used to be liberal, I think is what Ruben is saying. And now they're becoming fascist, he's saying. So, whatever he wants to call it.
What I'm saying is that I'm not so confident that the left would have associated themselves with liberal in the first place. I think, because I'm thinking, so libertarian values in terms of like, you do whatever the hell you want to yourself as long as you don't hurt anybody else, is a relatively right-wing value.
It's not center. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So libertarian isn't center. It's a little bit right. It's all relative. Like the terms, and even having a sliding scale of left versus right is kind of dumb anyway, because it places everybody somewhere along that scale and like stops conversation in a sense. Like, because if you just say, well, I'm super left, it's like, well, I don't want to talk to you. But that's just because of the framework of left I have in my mind. Or if I'm so far right, you wouldn't believe how right I am. It's like, well, well, I don't want to talk to you, racist bigot, but it's
Mhm.
like
I
it's
was
just like a
actually thinking,
stupid system.
yeah, I was actually thinking earlier today that that this is the same thing, that left and right don't really make sense, and maybe maybe there are growing segmented values that are that can no longer be considered left and right within the left and right. So maybe there are maybe there are values that are now considered in the right that are really more left, and maybe there are values on the left that are considered left but are really more right in terms of
Well,
what
we
we
have
had
that.
considered.
Yeah, like the American military, in my opinion, is like one of the most socialist implementations we have. Yet
Yeah.
the right supports it. It's like, oh, we're gonna take a bunch of everybody's money, like 10, like I don't know, 1% or 2 or 3 or 4 of everybody's income, and we're gonna buy tanks. like
Mhm.
that's socialist. As soon as you take out the word tanks and call it needles and doctors, like
Right.
it benefits everybody, it protects everybody. It's like very, very. I don't know if a socialist military is a thing, and maybe that's like a thing that's not really accepted within socialism formally. I don't really know enough about socialism, I guess,
Yeah.
to say that. But it's like, you'd think more taxes, more social infrastructure is like a left thing, but that's in this case it's a right. A libertarian would just like want to have the ability to buy guns and tanks, and he's just going to hope he has enough money to buy a tank when he needs one. But he doesn't think he'll need one because most people can't afford tanks. So what's the likelihood someone's going to roll on his property with a tank?
Right. So yeah, basically what I was thinking is that that maybe these distinctions are becoming more clear and conflating the traditional, like what seems to be a sedimented structure. You're right, left and right, and maybe it's actually starting to become clear that that doesn't make sense anymore. I don't know.
Yeah, the whole right left. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was Ruben saying at the end? We just paused it. He was saying like regressive. Oh, he was defining the regressive left.
I think, Michael, we should call our podcast "Making Simple Things Complex."
Yeah, but like a clever name, or like something less verbose. Yeah.
Yeah, instead of making complex things simple.
Yeah. Stirring the pot, or
just confusion.
the Mark and Michael are very confused podcast. The what the fuck is going on podcast.
The wait a minute. Oh, there's already a wait, but why?
Yeah, wait, but why? I was thinking that too. Like, wait, but why? I mean, you could call it something similar. Wait, what? Or I don't get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's cool.
Get it podcast.
Okay, you gonna back up 30 seconds?
Explain to me. Yeah.
If you're only now getting up to speed on what the regressive left is, allow me to recap quickly. The regressive, control, the liberal left, whatever you want to call it, is a group of people who place identity, usually based on immutable characteristics, in a pecking order of social importance, such as race, gender, and religion, where victimhood is the highest virtue to be had. This oppression Olympics allows groups to compete for who is the most oppressed, thus the most virtuous. And if someone isn't as oppressed as you, then you have...
Whoever's the most oppressed.
Yeah, so this victimhood, I don't know anybody like this. I don't know a lot of people. I'm a pretty isolated person, but
yeah. Me too.
But I don't see people claiming victimhood in the news every day. You know.
Yeah, I do. Um, and in fact, I know a girl who like thinks that black people have been and still are so oppressed, and all of her problems, a lot of her problems get viewed through the lens of racism.
Mm-hmm.
And thinks that she's black. She thinks she can't be racist because she's black, viewing everything through this oppression lens.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, Mark, I don't think that our so I wish I could find. I wonder if I have it. Somebody said something to me once. I don't think that you and I do see a lot of this because of our social circles. Like I hang out. The only people I want to hang out with are STEM people. Like talking to people not in STEM, and basically not talking about Elon Musk's schemes is boring, or this kind of stuff is boring. Like not talking about something like within an intellectual capacity or something, or yeah, is like really boring to me.
Yeah, dude, I have zero tolerance for it.
Yeah. Like I don't want to hear Ariana Grande. I don't want to, so it's just like okay, so
but I think you need to help me more. Is this something like an underground phenomenon? Is it a phenomenon that I am seeing? I'm just not recognizing it as such.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to find a quote that somebody said to me, just to show that like people do view it that way, and that they.
I'll make the point that while you're finding it, so hopefully, imagine you can show me it exists more than I am aware of it, but it still gets back to the same point that. So I imagine he's in a world where it's very apparent it's what he looks at on a daily basis, victimhood. So it might be a huge part of his issue, but it's not necessarily as big of an issue or as big of a part of the left's complex as it seems like he's making it.
Yeah, right. Which is a good point. Have you watched? So to I guess maybe one thing that could kind of show that it is at least an issue. Have you watched any of like the protest videos? Like the
No.
Okay, no. That's like where the first example where it shows, where it shows this victimhood representation. Where it's just like, well, he's white, or well, how am I supposed to be able to do something, or like, why is it all white people up there meeting? Why aren't there black people? Why isn't there representation? Why isn't there? Okay, I'm not making a lot of sense because I'm trying to.
No, I agree. That pisses me off a lot. I like the fact that Justin Trudeau hired 50-50 female male cabinet members pisses me off a lot.
Yeah, it doesn't. The fact that there were that many hired, that there were that distribution hired doesn't piss me off. Like I'm okay with that level of distribution. It's the fact that he says. It's the fact that he shows it off. It's the fact that he.
Well, it's the fact that
that was his intent.
I think there's reason to believe he decidedly chose someone because of their gender.
Yeah.
Like I hate all the equitable employment stuff.
Yeah.
And I hopefully not just because I'm white, but because it's racist.
It is racist. Affirmative action. Racist.
Right. Positive racism.
Yeah.
So in other words, yeah, I definitely recognize it's an issue. But is it really something brand new? Like equitable employment has been around for a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, affirmative action, big in the 90s, I think, maybe a bit more.
So the most reasonable defense of equitable action, I've heard, and it's an obvious one, is that the more minorities that are seen in powerful positions, the more it will be accepted as such, right?
Yeah.
Which is a practical. To me, that argument kind of tries to transcend ideology and get to the practical. How can we make a difference? Forget like what you might think is ideologically racist right now. How can we get to a place we want to be? Which I still don't agree. I don't agree with ideologically, but
I think from a game theory perspective, it takes more than 100 years for the market to relieve itself from the pre-existing conditions that it started.
Right.
And so,
sure.
yeah, we're not there. We know we're not going to get there within our lifetime. Is it better? Is it better to force equality to be racist and to assume what equality should look like, or should we? Is it better to assume what equality should look like and then be racist about how we get it there, or should we let the market decide what is equality and let the market get it there?
Right.
Okay,
I generally don't have sympathy for free market arguments, but I might have one there.
So this is like a good example. So this person, we were discussing. So the title from the person was like, "You're gonna shake your head solemnly at reports that black men get racially profiled by police, and then challenge your black colleague who tells you his last performance view felt biased. Really? Why? Because it's technically possible that this instance wasn't? Because you want to assume the best of his manager? Because assuming the best of people is something you get to do because you haven't been kicked in the gut." Assuming the best of people is something you get to do when you haven't been kicked in the gut. This shit has been happening for his whole fucking life. He knows what it is. How about assuming the best of him and his judgment of the situation? Right? So that's a victimhood mentality. So this is the idea that because he has been saying, he has been, you get it. How about believing
that's tough.
A woman who says that your colleague harassed her, even though you think he's a good guy? Where's her benefit? My comment, I was kind of a dick in my first comment. I said, "This is basically why," and then posted a link to the Wikipedia description of presumption of innocence. So, okay, I deserved a little slap on the wrist for that, probably. And then this person commented a picture of this guy who was wrongfully convicted and got some money after 31 years in prison. And then they said, "Oh, presumption of innocence didn't seem to apply to him." And this other person,
So that's oh my gosh.
And so what I said,
the worst comment they can make.
Right. So that's what I said. So I said, quote, "This is a broken system. It's delusional to think we'll get a different result when you have a former chief of police investigating a police system." From the second article, and you're likely correct. And this is me now. it would be delusional to believe that any perfect implementation of, quote, innocence until proven guilty exists. In fact, as politicized as it may become, it doesn't warrant discarding the entire ideal of innocence until proven guilty, but rather should invigorate the populace to demand more rigorous implementation of the best possible system. The Huffington article strongly implies, this is the original article, that we should base our beliefs on character and past experience rather than evidence. It should be clear that it's not a cogent method of rational inquiry, right? but a rather foolish one. It becomes more clear when viewed objectively rather than in any one political context, because you bring your bias and everything else to the context. It becomes more obviously deadly when one considers the methods employed by the Soviet Union, like in the Marxist trial, right? So if you view someone through their just identity and who you're claiming they are, then you're going to put all the engineers in prison because it must have been the engineers who made the bridges fail because they are against, the success of the Union, and so let's put them all in gulags. The events discussed in the articles you have posted here are first and foremostly atrocities, shameful examples of our current justice system's imperfections. They should have not been done the way they did, or they were. This guy wasn't presumed innocent and was sent to prison. It's exactly the case, as you say. Presumption of innocence didn't seem to apply to him, but it should have, right?
Right.
And it should also be applied
they're making the
to
point
white,
for you.
Right? I say it also should be applied to the officers. Guilty until proven innocence is foolish, always, as the Muslims say, truth will out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
that's insane. That's someone who's stupid. Like,
well, dude, this is I think they're totally delusional, but this is not uncommon. This is everyone I talk to when I go back to Walla Walla University almost.
That's straight up revenge.
Well, yeah. So then the person who posted the thing says, I'm not questioning the importance of presumption of innocence or disagreeing that we must provide some sort of evidence when making strong claims of racism, sexism, etc. about someone else. But explicit racism, sexism, etc. is much easier to prove than implicit, which she calls microaggressions, Well, let's just leave it at that. Well, okay, so then she says, minorities often experience implicit discrimination that's extremely hard to prove. Example is women in tech industry struggling for promotions or leadership opportunities and being told it's due to performance. It's naive to always or most of the time give the benefit of the doubt to the oppressor and always question minorities. When I express my frustration and fear of being catcalled, I'm often told by men that this is how the world is. Boys will be boys, which dismisses the action of the oppressor. Well, I don't think she's particularly. I don't know if she's saying that. I think she's thinking that their free speech is oppressing her. Maybe it is. It certainly is causing her psychological distress, which there's no denying that these guys are dicks for doing that.
Yeah, but it can actually be considered sexual assault too, right?
Well, depending on how it's done, yeah, no doubt, yeah. But
right.
catcalling, like, hey girl, what up? Like, that's not, there are types of catcalling, and we don't know what kind of catcalling she's receiving, for which instance she's thinking. But yeah, well, yeah, for sure it can be, and in so much as it is, these guys should be prosecuted. No denying that.
Right.
You don't have the right to just harass people in the street. So then,
at least it sounds like she's trying to discuss. I mean,
sorry, what's that?
It sounds like whoever it is trying to at least have a conversation about it.
Yeah, no, she is. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, she's actually pretty awesome. And then just one other example she gives: if Billy keeps being followed around at a store, at what point do we believe him that it is due to his ethnicity and racism from multiple employers? Because if you judge one experience at a time, it doesn't add up to much unless you look at Billy's collective experience.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a good point, right?
Right, until the person accuses the person of racism and wants his employer sent to prison.
Right.
Like you don't give anybody the benefit of the doubt in a legal proceeding.
Right.
Give everyone the facts. You just
it's a worthy point, but it's not worthy of
legal prosecution.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Actually,
we got
her point is that it's not worthy of legal prosecution, right? She says it's implicit. It's not clear. It's small biases.
No, she's
of which how can you?
Yeah, but then she's saying the person should have the benefit of the doubt. In other words, like send them to prison because, right? Because she said,
right.
When
we
have to have.
We have to have what?
She says we have to provide some sort of evidence making strong claims, but implicit stuff is so much easier to. Explicit is so much easier to prove than implicit. Minorities experience implicit that's hard to prove, and so it's naive to give the benefit of the doubt to the oppressor and always question the minority. And it's like you can view it as always questioning the minority, or you can view it as always questioning the person accusing.
Accuser.
Right.
Yeah.
And so to view everything within the victimhood framework is the problem.
Right.
Don't view it. In other words, only reserve your judgment about viewing it from within the context of you being black until you know that it's because you're black. In other words, like don't presume anything, right? Don't say that you're a minority being questioned until it's obvious that's irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we made it 6 seconds farther into Dave and Ruben's the time before. So good.
It exists. You personally experienced this this victimized left
mindset.
I watch news a lot. I don't see it as like a popular issue.
Yeah, they don't seem to. The big stations don't seem to get into this. It's more just like, well, this big riot happened here. This happened here. Well, Black Lives Matter though. That's he's talking about Black Lives Matter too.
Oh, well, I hope he's not, because that should not be categorized into this conversation. I think it's too big of a spectrum of positions to Lives Matter is a victimhood mentality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, the organization itself scares me, but yeah, there's obviously that's good. There's just like too much there to sweepingly call the whole thing. But I mean, that does exist within the Black Lives Matter movement.
Yeah.
To a big. Are you down to keep watching, Ruben?
I am. Are you?
Yep.
Sweet.
Full authority to oppress them accordingly. So Black Lives Matter can protest a gay rights march in Toronto. White gay men can be banned from leading LGBT organizations on college campuses.
You want to pause it?
Which are things that have happened.
Yeah. So the Black Lives Matter in Toronto thing, I've read articles from both sides of it, if I remember right, and it seems to me like they were protesting police participation based on the fact that police have had a not so good relationship with minorities.
Right. Police brutality against minorities is sort of the
Right.
or maybe not even just brutality, but targeting.
Yeah, so I would say that the participation in the parade isn't exactly something that seems appropriate for a Black Lives Matter movement to be protesting against. Like if police are trying to be engaged with a minority group, why is that being protested against? But
right.
the fact that but there is something to say about obscuring the minority oppression from the police department by being part of these public displays. But it's a point where the issue in a public setting where people can where it becomes relevant, right? I mean,
right. So, and I think Black Lives Matter would say that, like, yeah, like you say, like the police department gets a lot of good press by being in the gay pride, right?
mm-hmm.
So like if they don't want them part of it because if they do allow them to be part of it, they get all this good press, and then they can just go keep on being bastards.
Right.
Is that what you were trying to say?
Yeah, that's kind of.
I think the gay pride parade is coming up, and I think the Toronto police are actually participating in it, and Black Lives Matter is not too stoked about it.
Mm-hmm.
Did I understand your point?
Yeah, that was my point. Was just to shed light on the other side of the issue rather than just condemn the Black Lives Matter involvement in that as a victimhood act.
Right. Like there definitely is a necessity to, to point out the fact that maybe the police aren't acting as best they could, right? As a public service.
Right.
And it is kind of like, it's kind of a gut response in a sense. Like if I was, if the police were super anti-white and I knew a bunch of white friends who've been treated shittily by the cops, and then the cops are, going to participate in the white people's equality march or something, I'd be like, what? Like, get the fuck out of here. Like, you don't get to be here. Like, you've been dicks. Like, you go stand on the side.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Why don't you patrol the thing and make sure we don't get attacked by other people or police officers? Like,
right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I totally get. Yeah, I get the response.
Anyways, just our podcast is to point out the other side of each statement, right?
Right. Okay, so.
Can be kicked out of women's rights marches and so on. This backwards ideology, which demands we judge each other not on the content of our character, but on the color of our skin or some other baked-in trait, puts the collective ahead of the individual.
Oh, okay. So I guess Ruben isn't saying that, like, he's not even necessarily defending the police department. He's just saying, like, just because some white guys are dicks or some white or police officers are dicks doesn't mean that you get to kick out all the police officers, right? Like he's saying, like viewing the entire police department as
Right.
characterizing, painting them with the brush of
Mhm.
the probably small subset of police officers who are doing these like stupid acts
Mhm.
is kind of what Ruben's saying. Like, don't just blame the entire department, ban them all. Like, ask them all to be here, and then if you see a couple that have been like being real dicks, maybe like treat them differently. Say, well, we
Right.
don't want this guy here
Right.
because
And
like
yeah.
he's under investigation or something.
Mhm. Mhm.
Which is a good
that's a
point.
lovely.
Like that's like a stupid thing to do, right? Like,
Right. Yeah. Ideally, we would address everybody individually for their specific actions, right?
right.
But if there's a correlation, if a large percentage of a certain group,
Yeah.
this is profiling, right?
Yeah. So that gets us back to the profile discussion. Yeah. So how does one question I guess I have based on that is how does anti-identity politics meet profiling? And where's that line, right? Because obviously we do profile, and Dave Rubin advocates profiling, and Michael Kudla advocates profiling in airports and whatever. But I don't like identity politics and the idea of judging people
Right.
based on their group identity.
That's interesting.
What's the difference? That's another time.
I'm gonna be right back.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It loves all of its minority groups to behave as monoliths. So if you're a true individual, meaning you don't subscribe to the ideas that the groupthink has attributed to you based on those immutable characteristics, you must be cast out.
I guess like the irony here is that he's going to classify all these anybody who subscribes to these ideas as believing in that specific way, and that that he's, even if you have 2 of those ideas but not 4 of them, he's not attacking your ideas. He's attacking, you, calling you not a liberal. You can't be a liberal and think this.
Many of the guests on my show have suffered from this backwards backlash. Ayaan Hirsi Ali, Majid Nawaz, Sarah Haider, and Ali Rizvi all have felt abandoned by the left because they speak out about the problems within Islam. They dare to fight for a more tolerant, more truly progressive Islam in tune with a modern society and basic liberal values, and for that they're labeled bigots or worse. The Southern Poverty Law Center even labeled Majid as an anti-Muslim extremist. In reality, Majid's a former Islamist who has devoted his life to trying to reform Islam from the inside, to try to reconcile his faith with the modern world, fighting for gays and atheists and women and any other free thinkers living under theocratic rule. For this, he is called a porch monkey and other vile names by supposed progressives, while at the same time he's admired by many on the right for being outspoken. This is the absolute height of absurdity, but it all makes sense when you value groups over individuals. The individual must be sacrificed at the altar of the collective. So when any of these people dare speak out,
I feel like a long time ago. Shoot. Reform. He said the person who wanted to reform Islam was called a Islamic or a bigot, or what else was he called? Anti-Islamic extremist.
Yeah.
Anti-Muslim extremist. And what's the problem with, like, he might very well be extremely anti-Muslim.
Let's see what the word actually.
He says he wants to reform Islam from within to be accepting of gays and all this stuff, and all that is very anti-Islam.
Right, definitely anti-Sharia. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's like to say, well, it's not anti-Islam because he wants that to be the new, majority of Muslims.
Yeah,
right.
He wants
but
to change Islam.
But he's not anti-Islam.
Right.
That's he's not an anti-Islam. He's a different Islam, a prettier Islam, a Western Islam, San Francisco Islam.
Right.
Which exists too, right? Like, there are Muslims who say, I'm a Muslim and I like gays. Like, there probably are gay Muslims.
So I think
because a Muslim is just someone who calls himself a Muslim. That's all a Muslim is.
Right. Shoot.
So to be called an anti-Muslim extremist is something you're like, they're basically saying he wants to kill Muslims or wants to something like that, or Islam. Maybe not Muslims. I'm guessing that's what the Southern Poverty Law Center, is that what it was?
So, what about this? I feel like he's bringing another issue into the picture, and that is accepting of differing belief systems, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this guy who's considered anti-Muslim, apparently, according to Rubin, is being called an extremist for the fact that this anti-Muslim isn't accepting traditional Islamism.
Right.
Or
traditional Islamic beliefs. Yeah. Islamism is like a thing. So just not to.
So the position of being accepting of religions, regardless of whether you think they're irrational in nature or not, is that fit somewhere on the left-right spectrum?
I think to be accepting of ideas to be considered is like considered liberal, but I don't think it should be. Like, I think, like, in other words, like, I think it's a higher order of thought. In other words, like, someone who can be described as politically or economically conservative, I expect them, when I talk to them, to have the same level of openness to my ideas as I do someone on the liberal side of political and In other words, like it shouldn't be liberal or conservative to be able to say, I think this, but I could be wrong.
Right.
And
But
actually,
what I'm
I think
talking
it's
about is go.
no. Go ahead.
Um, I'm having a hard time. Maybe there's nothing here, but the person who is accepting of differing religions, it seems like that person Rubin is painting as someone who is calling this Islam new Islamist extremist. What I'm wondering is being accepting of differing positions, is that a left right issue? Is somehow accepting Islam for what it is? You could be Islam and not like gays as part of your religious because God said so. Is that a liberal position? Or is the liberal position trying to change the Islam so that he does accept gays?
Yeah, I think that's so. You might say that it's historically liberal to say that you're going to accept people as they are, if you want to call it that. It would be more traditionally conservative to expect people to live like a Western Christian lifestyle when they move to America. And it would be more liberal to expect them to keep essentially the same cultural values that they had coming into America.
Right.
More traditionally liberal.
Mm-hmm.
Ironically, though, now I think Rubin is saying that the I think what he's trying to say is that the liberals now are rejecting essentially the Republicans, like the right, because they and not allowing. He's saying that even if you have the idea that Islam should be reformed, that idea is not tenable. That there's nothing wrong with Islam, and that you should be in trouble for saying. I mean, it kind of goes back to C16.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what he's saying? I'd say yeah, like historically left and historically right. That's just historically a liberal thing, but now I'm trying to think of an example where the right was looking for free speech, or the right was fighting for free speech. You can't really call it like Democrat Republican because they kind of flip flop. Well, one example is anti-gay hate speech from the pulpit. But it's a more conservative thing to want to speak out against homosexuality from the pulpit. Mm-hmm. And I think it's only recently been re-legalized in America. To say God hates homosexuality could get you sent to prison. So yeah, that's but essentially. Yeah, I think they've just kind of made it okay. Ironically, though, yes. they made it also okay for imams to speak out against America from the pulpit. They didn't realize they were doing. There was some like irony there or something.
They allowed them to what?
So they reinstated this legislation, or they redacted some legislation or something that stopped preachers from preaching out against homosexuality, basically making as aggressive moral claims as they wanted to make from the pulpit, against homosexuality as it is. You still can't incite violence against people. Actually, hate speech might be protected in the States. I don't know. It's not in Canada, but I don't know. But I guess the fact is that while they reinstated that ability, now Muslims are able to speak out against American ideals and stuff like that from the pulpit too, which is like, and against Christianity as an idea. I guess there was just
okay. So is that considered a right position?
That
allow freedom of religious whatever
hate speech, if you want to call it, like
yeah,
like Westboro Baptist Church stuff is like more right than left. God hates fags. God hates fags is a right position, not a left position. There's more. This is the thing. It's stupid to call it right or left. Like, why are we? We should just be viewing it from whether it's intellectually tenable or not. Not is it more to the right or more to the left.
But this is to the point that we're addressing the left in this video.
Yeah. Is the left no longer liberal?
Right.
I think that the whole title is kind of like silly though. He's just trying to get clicks. Like, the left is no longer liberal. What? Dave Rubin, explain that to me.
Yeah, but that is basically his argument, right?
That the vast majority of the left is not liberal. Yeah.
So what he's calling liberal, right, I think, in the sense of you should be able to religiously express hate speech.
Mm-hmm.
And he's so there's this Islam who has come out against the traditional Islam tenets, right? And he's saying the left is rejecting him for not accepting Islam the way it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Now, does that make sense in left and in the way we were thinking of left and right?
Yeah. Well, no. See, I don't know. I was kind of trying to make the point that it kind of goes both ways. Like, there's like a tendency of people to want to shut up the other side. So I don't think it is. I don't think the free speech thing is left or right. Like because in the 60s, like, the left was all about free speech. Like, that's what the original Berkeley protests were all about. The right to speak out, in that case, against the Vietnam War, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Now, free speech thing is more of a right thing because, pronouns and the Islamophobia. And so I don't think you can view it within the context of the right or left. I think he's just sent, like, from a first principles perspective or something, if you want to say, like, the left is against free speech and the right isn't, so then anytime it's anti-free speech and it's the left oppressing, so I think you just have to say, like, in this case, something that is like, they call themselves, liberal or left, they're trying to stop this guy from being who he is, and so they're calling him names.
Can we say that he's using the word liberal, at least in the title, as in the same way I'm thinking of as libertarian?
No, well, I guess I don't know what you think of as libertarian, but libertarian,
very, very
like,
simply, I think. Yeah, individual freedom above all else.
No, I don't think so. Like, I think he thinks like government intervention is a good thing, and I think he thinks like profiling is a good thing, and I think he thinks that or necessary, maybe not good, a greater good.
What he's saying is, but liberal here. What does he mean with that word? I think he means freedom of individual expression and
liberty,
whatever.
Yeah, more rights for the individual.
So the libertarian says we want the government out of your bedroom, and out of your pocketbook, out of your bedroom and out of your wallet.
Yeah.
Liberal in the sense of you can smoke what you want, you can have sex with who you want, You can go to whatever church you want.
Yeah,
So that's what I
I'd
think
say,
that's-
yeah, and he's like a small government guy. So, but he is also like a healthcare guy. So like, which it wouldn't be libertarian.
uh-huh.
And he's like yeah. I don't know, that might be one difference.
So I'm not sure you could have ever said the left was liberal.
Well, left like 50% of the population, if you want to call it that. The left side is more liberal.
Were they? But in what sense? I mean, not in the libertarian sense, right? Libertarian is right.
Right now,
it's healthcare to force you to pay more taxes, to be more socialist, to be more fascist.
Sort of fascist. Yeah. You don't have to be fascist to be on the left or to be super
Right.
left. Like you can be super socialist and not be fascist.
Right. But I'm saying I don't know that it's you. At least I never understood the left as this liberal value in the way he seems to be talking about it. Or saying it's no longer that way. I'm suggesting was it ever that way?
Was it ever? Well, I think in contrast to conservative side of things, yeah, like like so for example, like freedom of religion, one example. So the left, a person on the left side of their ideology would be more accepting of someone's religion and someone's right to have a different religion. Less likely to impose their religious views on a system, and more likely to be okay with other religious views being on a system. So, for example, like, women having the right to work and women having the right to vote, and things like that. I think those are more left, and so liberal and left. Like, where do you put your center, and how do you determine what your center is? Your center defined by the 50th percentile of the population, like just where the middle point of the population in a context is? Is it like, is there a set of ideologies and there is a center of those ideologies somewhere, and that's what left and right is determined at? I don't really know. Maybe there's like a political theory.
Who knows either? It seems liberal. I mean, socialist is the opposite of liberal when you compare it to democracy, or I mean, not democracy, but what's not socialist? Capitalist?
Yeah. Basically, capitalist is you keep everything you earn. Socialist is everybody, like ultimate socialism is everybody gets an equal share no matter, like whatever was made, everybody gets an equal share. Capitalist is you keep
I think that's communism.
Oh. Yeah, you're right.
But yeah. That would be extreme socialist, right?
Yeah, is communism socialist to 100%? No, not really.
That's basically my dumbed down thinking.
Yeah. Yeah, so, so I guess part of it is like we just use terms we don't really know. We don't like have the whole historical underpinnings of either, which is like how it always is.
Yeah, so the more left you get, really, do you think that anybody thinks if we're getting closer and closer to communism?
I think if you're on the left, you're closer to communism than you are if you're on the right.
Right.
Unless you think you're going to heaven. Because heaven's like the ultimate communist state, right? Like,
Yeah.
you were a door-to-door Jesus salesman for 30 years, you get eternal life. You
Right.
decided to try Jesus as you were hanging from a cross, you get heaven, eternal life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Communism with a dictator at the top, and everybody else dies. With everlasting love, of course.
Right. Of course. With an omnipotent dictator.
Yeah.
So that's confusing to me. That we haven't solved that issue for me. Is if the more socialist and communist you get, how can we equate the left with liberal?
Because, because the left used to be liberal, but it's now more socialist.
Well, it's always been the socialist side, hasn't it?
See, what's the definition of like what do people mean when they say? Is there like what does Webster say? I think I'm using a different liberal.
About left or socialist?
Okay, so liberalism is a worldview founded on the ideas of liberty and equality. So is it liberalism versus conservatism?
Yeah, here's the other issue. That we might be getting confused with liberalism and traditionalism.
Which is conservatism, basically.
Right.
So conservatism, definition number 1, is commitment to traditional values and ideas with opposition to change or innovation. Or 2, holding of political views that favor free enterprise, private ownership, and socially conservative ideas. Okay, and then so privacy, private ownership, socially conservative, basically traditional. And then liberalism is liberty and equality. Yeah, so like free speech is like sort of in a sense like communist. It's like communist speech, right? It's like, the opposite of free speech would be like you only get to, or like the capitalist, like the capitalist version of speech would be like you only get to speak once you've proven that you're worth listening to.
Right.
Whereas
yeah.
Whereas free speech is the idea that everyone gets to speak, you only get listened to if we decide you're worth listening to. Right? So like free speech is like everyone gets to say something, you can say whatever you want, but nobody has to listen. Which is sort of like, I guess like more socialist, or like, I don't know if it's either of those, but like the communist version would be like everyone has to listen to everyone else the same amount. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So like liberal just means like tending towards equality and everything. Conservative means keeping to the old ways we used to do things, or maybe more capitalist.
Right. So
they're like loose. They're super loose definitions.
Yeah, I don't think he's showing that the left is becoming more, right?
Can you say that again? It cut out.
I don't think he's showing that the left is becoming more traditional and capitalist. I think he's showing that the left is becoming more concerned with equality of outcome rather than equality of opportunity.
Right. And so it's like, is that still within the category of liberalism, or are you contrasting, or is he contrasting liberalism with socialism or communism? Whereas, like, in a sense, those are subsets of liberalism.
Hmm.
So, like, maybe a better title would have been like, "Is the left a shittier liberalism?" You might.
Yeah. In some sense, he's pointing out that the left is becoming more left, right?
Yeah, farther left. Yeah.
Right. Right.
But maybe he views liberalism as like a step left of center, or like, only a certain distance left of center.
Right. Right. Right.
And then you hit, and then you transition into socialism, and then you get really hardcore socialism, and then you transform into communism, and then you get super hardcore communism, and then maybe fascism.
Right.
I don't know,
maybe,
or not fascism, Marxism after that. Did I say fascist earlier? And then,
yeah. That's a really good point. That these issues don't necessarily have their extremes at the ends of the spectrum, but maybe somehow have ends within the spectrum.
yeah, like militant
The left is
socialists
becoming-
are mild communists.
Right. Religion socialist.
I don't know.
Right.
I think
So
that's
when-
kind of
when-
how he sees it. If we're to put it all
when
on
the
a
left
scale.
moves more left, they move out of being liberal.
Right.
So that allows us to not equate left with liberal in the first place.
Right.
So to say they're no longer liberal is weird, because we couldn't have assumed left was at the edge of the spectrum of liberal, weird on the
Right.
spectrum.
I just looked up political ideological map.
Can
Um,
you share?
yeah, I'm gonna try to. So can you see my Google search here?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's one. So
Oh, this is
socialism,
sweet.
yeah. So socialism is at odds with capitalism,
Mm-hmm.
and autonomy with statism, which I have no idea what
Statism?
state. Oh, yeah, statism. So statism would, and yeah. So statism is obviously pro country, and autonomy is no country, no nothing, right?
Yeah, I would think statism, you kind of give up your rights for the benefit.
Right. Right. Okay, so what would be conservatism? I guess like in this case it's like capitalism and statism, because American conservatives, we are in a capitalist, or we have, especially in the past, we were much more capitalist, and quite statist, because we've come out of World War II, and pro-America everything, right? So so conservative is thereby defined as this sort of capitalist statist blend.
Yeah, you see it there.
Right. I'm just kind of putting
Okay.
putting some description to it, and then
Yeah.
and
Some
then
context to it.
right. But then liberalism. It's interesting that liberalism shares nothing with socialism as an ideology.
Where do you see liberalism? Oh,
It's the big
liberals
green
and libertarians.
Well, and then the big green thing is liberalism, like that whole big square.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I would have put left at socialism and right at capitalism. But, okay, according to this, the left was never liberal. Or at least like left at the edge of Marxism, so at the blue 100, and right at the red 100.
yeah. So you would have put right at the red 100 and blue at the blue one, or liberalism at the blue 100, or left at the blue 100.
Left at the blue 100.
Okay, so then
Yeah.
right, except that like America is sort of split, like America is sort of split between the line between blue 70 and red 70. If you draw a line, or blue 80 and red 70. So if you draw a line between blue 80 and red 70, that's sort of America's center. Right?
You think America is center down?
What do you mean by center down?
Like center of the chart and down?
Yeah. Center of the chart? No, America's a little bit to the left of center here, in this case. Like America's center is draw a line between conservatives and Republicans and liberals, Democrats, right? This whatever the center of that line is, and then draw a horizontal line. Approximately, that's what America's center is. No?
Hey, you have a mouse, right?
Oh
Can
yeah.
I see your mouse or not?
Duh. Can you see my mouse?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah. So like this sort of line here. So between this 80 and this 70, if you drew that line, except I have this auto zoom thing on. If I keep moving, I think it.
You're putting them on a line, not a point?
Yeah, I guess you're right. I could have a point. Let's see. Can I view image?
Yeah.
Here we go. Is that better? Bigger anyway. Yeah,
So we got to look at conservatives and Republicans, right? How would have put them?
That's where you would have put them?
Yeah, when we're comparing to the world spectrum and considering the average of the world to be center, which I think is kind of
right.
Way. Yeah, I would have put them there.
Yeah. Well, and you don't even have to say the average of the world. You can just say average of ideologies. Right? Like, is this all the ideologies that exist that are prominent? Like, do we have to say center of the world, or can you say center of ideas? Does that make sense or no? Are you there? You're frozen! No! Come back, Mark.